guys, and welcome to Miss Nerdington's channel of weirdgasm. Well, today I'll be doing an IGO-W build, and I'll be doing it on a Brass Nemesis Clone, and it's got the choo-choo train on the bottom because it hits like a train. So, I've got my canthal, I've got my nail clippers, which I used to cut the canthal, if I can get them in picture. I've got my Phillips head screwdriver, get that out of the way. I use a tiny itty bitty screwdriver. These are electronic screwdrivers, and I find that they work the best, especially when using this to wrap your coil, because one, it's nice and small. Two, it's got a handle to hold on to so you can wrap your canthal around to make your coil. I got pliers to pinch my coil down. I've got a Q-tip. In between builds, I like to go through and clean them out. I've got my IGO-W. I've got my mod. And I've got tweezers just in case there's a piece that I can't get to. This is always good to have on hand. And I think that's all you need. Yeah, and my Ohm Reader. Excuse me. I've got an Oracle Ohm Reader, which is a great Ohm Reader. It works fantastic. I like having it plugged in. I feel like it gives it a more accurate reading. Okay, so first things first, you're going to take your canthal. You're going to get your piece ready. And you're going to cut it. So I've got this. This should be enough for 2 coils. I do 7 reps for the dual coil builds because I feel like if you do 5, it heats up way too quick and it kind of ruins the flavor of your vape, but 7 still gives you a nice big cloud. So I'm going to cut this in half. And I take my screwdriver, and this is what I was talking about. This is what makes it easy. I stick the tail of the canthal on the edge, and I wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And as time goes on, you'll be able to measure out more of what canthal you need. So it ends up looking like that. And then I take my pliers just to make sure it's a nice tight wrap, and I tug on each end of the coil. And I make sure they match up and they're not all cattywampus. And then I squish it down on the screwdriver, so it looks like that now. And then again, I pull it just to make sure any of that squishing didn't move the wire out of whack. So there's 1. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Squish it down. And I tug on each end of the canthal. Careful not to tug it too tight because you can snap the end of the canthal off and then you'll have to start all over and it's really crappy. So I've got my 2 coils, 1 and 2. I'm going to take my IGO-W and I make sure I've got the screws screwed out enough to where I can fit the canthal through the posts comfortably. Stick one side in. And I like to get them nice. So see, this one's got an extra tail. That's just an extra piece, but this one's almost perfect. So what I do is I butt it up as close as I can to the edge of the well. I hold it with my thumb. And then I screw in the side that isn't going to have the double end of the coil. So the middle post you're going to want to leave unscrewed because you're going to need to put the other piece of canthal through there. I'll back that up a little bit to where it's nice and in the good spot. I'll take my other coil and I'll feed it through. Another thing you have to be careful of when you're pulling the canthal tight is bending the end of it because it makes it kind of a pain to get it in there. It'll bend it down and whatnot. And again, I'm going to get it as close to the edge as possible, hold it down with my thumb, and this time you can go ahead and screw down both of your posts. You got to be really careful with the IGOs because you can snap the canthal in there. You want it tight, but not super tight. You want to keep it in there. You'll be able to tell when you fire it to oxidize the coils if one of the screws needs to be tightened more because it'll have inconsistency in timing. So you'll see that we've got these extra 2 little pieces on the end here and the 2 in the center. Some people really like to have extra tails at the end, but I like to cut them off because any bit of that tail touches another piece of metal, it's going to short it out and you're going to have to put a new coil in. So we're going to go ahead and grab our clippers. We're going to cut that tail as close to the post as we can get it. Without cutting the coil itself. See, I missed this post right here, so I gotta go back. Which it'll happen the first couple times you build. There's things that you'll notice or get harder or easier or whichever. And that was the side that I had bent with the pliers. So there we go. We got it back in the post holes on each side. And screw it back down. Simple, easy fix. Just got to make sure you don't back out the other end of your coil. I go in and snip it. So there you are. You've got your two coils in place, and I've got them nice and close to the edge. So now I'm going to hold it down and fire it and get it nice and bright, and then let go of the button and pinch it. If you touch any metal to these coils, it will burn off the end of that contact and you'll have to lay a new coil in there. And I like to hold it for a little bit to where it gets nice and hot and it gets rid of that cantholy burn that's on there, so when you pack your cotton and everything in there, you see the inconsistency? That means that one side is looser than the other and you need to go back, just slightly adjust your screws. And that makes all the difference. Perfect consistency, perfect timing. I take the small screw that I use to wrap the coils and I go put it inside of that coil that I just oxidized and I pull it up. So now that I've got my coils up, I'm going to take my cotton. I use organic cotton. They say you should boil all of your cotton balls. I personally don't like the way the flavor of the comes out after you boil it. It's got like the stale taste to it. So I just use regular organic cotton. If you use the other one, the regular non-organic cotton, you're basically smoking the bleach that comes off of that cotton ball because they bleach cotton balls. So you want to make sure you get organic, and you're going to start tugging at the ends until you unroll it. And you're going to have to play with the amount of cotton that you pull. So I've got that section. I'm going to section it off and pull. After I do that, I fold it over like so. And then I fold the ends in to where it starts to shape up to the size of my IGO. Then I hate the little bits. You don't have to do this part, but I fold the little bits into where it's easier to stuff. After that, for ease of popping it in there, I put the screwdriver in it like that and put it underneath the coil. It helps push it under there without damaging anything. And then I just start stuffing. I use my thumb to kind of get some of it patted in there. So now we've got our cotton in there and it looks kind of messy. So what I do, and it's totally optional, is I take the screwdriver that I used to pack it in, I grab it at the edge and I pull it out. I know it seems counterproductive, but when you flip it over, it's got a nice flat surface instead of that fluffy mess that's on top. So I'll pull both sides out. And then I just flip it over and stuff it back in. It gets a nice tight pack. It holds good fluid, gives it good vapor production. A lot of people like to have it level with their mod, but I like to have it puff up just a little bit. I feel like it gives you a better vape personally, and I feel like it holds more fluid so you don't have to drip as often. So now we've got that one in there. And I tuck all those little edges back in. Use my finger to pat it down, like so. Use my thumb again. So now that I've got it all tucked and pretty and pristine, you can see the coils, and you want to have a little bit of puff up around the coil so it prevents from getting any of those hot spots between the canthal, the coil, and the post. So these little pieces in the center, they can get real hot and it'll give you a really bad canthal hit and it'll make your throat burn. It sucks, it's awful. So now that we've got all that in, we'll go ahead and drip our fluid on there. And what I'm dripping is the standard, it's G35. Just give me one sec. And the trick's to get it nice and slushy. So it's nice and slushy in there and it covers all the canthal. I like these syringe bottles. Not everybody does. I like them because they provide a nice little pointer tip to go in there and you can get straight in the canthal. You put your cap on, and when you do put your cap on, I've got drilled out holes, bigger drilled out holes, because you get a better vape, bigger cloud. You want to line them up with your coil. Pop that on there. You can see some people drip through that top piece. I don't like to because I feel like I get too much in there. Pop your drip tip on. Okay, now as you can see, we'll unscrew this. Pop this bad boy on the Ohm Reader. And this is coming out at a 0.39. Which is actually not that bad.